Hello, future engineers. We are going to continue our discussion on the lecture 2 of the earthquake engineering. In our previous discussion, we have already tackled the earthquake forces as a result of the back and forth, up and down, and sideways motion as generated by the sudden release of energy when the fault ruptures. And then this motion has generated what we call the earthquake waves or the seismic waves. And the earthquake waves or the seismic waves is categorized as body waves and surface waves. Body waves, they travel through the interior of the earth, and then the surface waves travel through the surface of the earth. Now there are two types of body waves. We have the primary waves or the P waves, and then the second one we have the secondary waves or S waves. In the surface waves, we have the Rayleigh waves and the love waves as well. Now, to continue our discussion on earthquake engineering, we are going to look at the background of earthquake engineering. So, this is very fascinating because earthquake engineering is a very young science. It's a very young body of knowledge. And it just came to us just in the last century. And we have the benefits of this knowledge because of the advancement of technology and research as well. So let's look at the history of earthquake engineering. When did it happen? Why we came to this point in earthquake engineering? So we know that in the earliest times, without those scientific knowledge that we have now, naturally, humans are curious of the different phenomena that happens around us. One of that is the creation of the earth. So many human beings, no, in the ancient times, human beings had tried to understand the creation, the formation, and the composition of the earth. Nagsugod na siya dira, no? What is the composition of the earth? So there are several again, because this is the ancient times, more likely the explanations are tied to the different myths, legends, and fables. So the earliest known cases were unscientific and related to the creation myths and religious fables involving the gods. However, during the classical antiquity and the medieval period, there were already theories that were proposed or discussing the origin of the earth and its composition, no, and its proper makeup. So in ancient times, initially the earth was viewed as a flat disk. Now we call this the flat earth theory. So early believers of this were from the Mesopotamian culture, where they believed that the earth is a flat disk floating in an ocean. To the Mayans as well, the earth is also flat, and then the corners of the earth were held up, and in this corner of the earth, the four jaguars held up the sky. Now we call this Bacabs. And then to the Persians, they speculated that the earth is a cosmic mountain, and the Chinese viewed it as a four-sided cube. However, it was on the 6th century BCE where the Greek philosophers began to think that probably the earth was round. The earth is not flat. So this is just a speculation during this time. We're very thankful of these philosophers, no, because they have given us these lovers of wisdom, no, the seeker of knowledge, because they try to understand things in the light of logic and reason. And then, in the 3rd century BCE, the idea that the earth is sphere is already considered a scientific matter. And as well, it is also during this time that the earth was viewed to have minerals and metals, and it was subject to a very slow process of change. However, it was on the 16th and 17th century that we have our scientific understanding of the planet Earth and its structure truly began to advance. One of the early theories during the 17th century on the composition of the Earth was proposed by Edmund Halley. So he have this hollow Earth theory. So what is this hollow Earth theory? So it means he said that the Earth has an inner sphere, and then that states that the Earth is hollow, and then uh, in in the core there is also another layer, and then there is some distance, there is air gap, and to avoid collision of the inner sphere, it was being held by the force of gravity. This was, an early theory on the layers of the Earth. So there were movies that are that we can see that the Hollow Earth theory was being applied. For example, we have the Strange World, and then we have Kong and Godzilla. So there is a world beneath our world, and then there were also different ecosystem and animals that is being that are also present there. And then we have also How to Train Your Dragons, diba? In the third part of this movie, there is again another space, a core, a different ecosystem beneath our what we are beneath our ground. So mo ni siyang sa kuan sa in the movies, no. So in this movie also, that in this ecosystem, in this sphere, there were dragons with different ecosystem, plants and animals. However, Halley's construct on later on in the scientific community, of course, if you have a theory, you need to prove it. The burden of proof lies to those who claim. So, however, the Hollow Earth theory was disproven because of the Schiehallion experiment. No? That is a very big mountain, and there were um, engineers who tried to measure the azimuth of the compass. So there is a compass, and we know that the compass is always pointing to the magnetic north. So on the mountain of this very great mountain, there were assigned people on the northern part and the southern part of the mountain, and then they were recording the deflection of the compass. So upon looking, there is a very slight deflection. So why? So again, we know that mountains is composed of minerals and metals. Diba? The earth is composed of minerals and metals. And some of these minerals or metals are magnetic. And that property of these minerals can deflect a very small amount, even though a very small amount can deflect the direction of the compass. And because of that, they have correlated that deflection to the density of that mountain, to the density of the earth. And then they have again they have stated then that the density of the earth is much greater than previously expected. Since the density of the earth is greater than previously expected, the earth cannot be hollow, because same ragot, if not, we have two boxes, each has a volume of 1 cubic meter, and then if the other one is fully filled and then the other one is half filled, ang mas dako density is katong fully filled, right? So if the earth is hollow, the density would be lesser, because we know that the density is the ratio of the mass to the corresponding volume. And then because of that, they were able to get the density of the earth and disproven the hollow earth theory, that the earth is not hollow and 9 layers beneath the ground. And 17th and 18th century, there were already debates about the authenticity of the Bible, where scientists and theologians were debating on the true age of the earth, because as per the scripture, the age of the earth is different from what we have, again, with our current knowledge of science. The age of the earth is, they do not coincide. So because of this, they search for evidence of the Great Flood, then combined with fossil evidence, which was found within the Earth's layer, they have formed a basis, no, for identifying the age of the Earth according to the strata. So more of this in the next discussion.